China's military is growing by any means, according to a new Pentagon report. China is trying to read children's minds. And Uyghurs are very happy. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. A new Pentagon report released Tuesday warns that the Chinese military is using any means necessary to transform into a deadly, superior fighting force, and it has its sights set on Taiwan. In fact, the report says conquering Taiwan has served as the primary driver for China's military modernization, which might be why a top Chinese general recently said on the People's Liberation Army's official English-language website, if someone tries to split Taiwan from China, the Chinese military will do whatever it takes to safeguard national reunification, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity. China's military budget has been expanding every year. The Defense Intelligence Agency estimates in 2018, total military-related spending will top $200 billion. That's 3 times what it was in 2002. And while that is still dwarfed by the U.S., which in 2018 spent $700 billion, the report notes that China has not had to invest in costly R&D of new technologies to the same degree as the United States. In other words, America spent the money on research and development, and then China stole it. Domestic laws forced foreign partners of Chinese-based joint ventures to release their technology in exchange for entry into China's lucrative market, and China has used other means to secure needed technology and expertise. And now that China is basically caught up, it's developing new weapons. Defense Intelligence Agency Director Lieutenant General Robert Ashley writes that China is on the verge of fielding some of the most modern weapon systems in the world. In some areas, it already leads the world. For example, China has developed the world's first road-mobile anti-ship ballistic missile system. Those are specifically designed to attack enemy aircraft carriers, which would make U.S. defense of Taiwan that much more difficult, assuming they can actually hit their target. The moon. Man has walked on the moon, driven on the moon, hit a golf ball on the moon. What else is there to do? Well, apparently this.
China has released photographs of seeds planted by its lunar probe sprouting on the far side of the moon's surface. The cottonseed sprouts are the first biological matter to grow on the moon.
Now, growing something on the moon is a big deal. That's because if anyone wants to go to Mars, being able to grow moon sprouts is the first step towards growing Mars potatoes in human poop. The moon lander was also carrying yeast and fruit fly eggs. Well, I know that will work. Once fruit flies start hatching, you can never get rid of them. Why do we even want fruit flies on the moon? Next thing you know, they're going to start filling up the moon with other pests like mosquitoes, spiders, and pandas. And it all started with some cotton seeds. What's that, Shelley? The plants are dead. Yes, no moon pandas. In other surely not sinister scientific developments, China has started scanning children's brains with experimental technology. The brain scanning headbands were used in a recent trial with 10,000 school children aged between 10 and 17 in China. Over 21 days, students wore the headsets during class, and teachers could monitor their average attention levels using an app. I know, hard to imagine Chinese students might have a hard time focusing when they're reading about Xi Jinping thought for a new era. Maybe they'll be able to focus better on classes about the links between electromagnetic waves and brain cancer. But I know you're worried about how soon it will be before American schools can enjoy these child brain scans as well. Well, no need to worry, because they were designed by the Massachusetts-based Brain Co. So hopefully we'll have them in America as soon as the China trials are done.
When students use the Focusone, teachers can immediately tell when their students are in a low attention state or high attention state.
This is not the future we were promised. We were promised pink hoverboards. Yet another vaccine scandal in China. More than 100 children received expired polio vaccines. They were between 3 months and 4 years old. This is terrible news, unless you're an anti-vaxxer. An unexpected side effect of these expired vaccines was violent protests over the weekend. I guess parents were a little tired of Communist Party negligence putting their children's lives at risk. Again, sure, bad vaccines are used all the time in China, but as state-run media said after the last vaccine scandal a few months ago, Chinese vaccines are perfectly safe. Hey, you know those vocational training centers in Xinjiang? The ones that are holding 1 million or more Uyghurs? The ones that hostile foreign forces, called journalists, like to call concentration camps? Couldn't be further from the truth. Why, a Reuters reporter was given an official tour of one, and this is what he saw.
Some of the officials said to me, look, we're doing such a good job here that you in the West should really be learning from us.
I mean, they said they were happy, they knew it, and they clapped their hands. So, please ignore any reports you may hear about the vocational training camps actually being for cultural and ethnic genocide with torture worse than death. And finally, this piece of calligraphy has been a part of Chinese sacred territory since ancient times, 1200 years to be exact. It's a famous piece by the greatest calligrapher in Chinese history, Yan Zhenqing. It's called Requiem to My Nephew. It belongs to Taiwan's National Palace Museum, but that's not why the Communist Party is so upset. They're upset because Taiwan lent it to a Japanese museum, and they hate Japan because, you know, the rape of Nanking in 1938. Seriously. According to the BBC, the story is trending on the Chinese internet, and people are furious. One Weibo user said, "Has Taiwan forgotten what Japan did to us? Do they know what the Nanking Massacre is?" Now, Taiwan's history with Japan is pretty different from the mainland. Taiwan was under Japanese occupation for even longer, from 1895 until 1945. But in Taiwan, Japanese occupiers were a little less rapey and a lot more buildy. Anyway, the reaction in China, or at least the reaction that's been allowed to stay on social media, has been that Taiwan is crazy and China needs to retake Taiwan, which fits in very nicely with the recent speech Chinese leader Xi Jinping gave. Those are this week's China headlines. What do you think? Leave your comments below. And before you go, now is the time when I answer a question from a fan who supports China Uncensored on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Rodney Hall asks, is it ever difficult to do China Uncensored as comedy when you know better than most that the CCP holds China through mass murder, mass torture, and mass repression? I would think that making jokes about a regime that cuts its people up and sells their pieces for cash would make you want to cry every day. Hey, you don't know what happens after the camera turns off. It's a river of sorrow up in here. That's why I grew the beard, to catch all the tears that were dripping on the desk. But yeah, most of the things we cover on this show are very serious, and it's all having a very big impact on people's lives, whether they're in the US, China, or anywhere else in the world. But no one likes to hear depressing news all the time. But in the immortal words of Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. And not just for the viewers. The humor helps all of us on the China Uncensored team write about this stuff without having to take Zoloft. Now, Matt, Shelley, and I are all very passionate about China. So how do we manage to make jokes? Simple. We built Sarcastabot 3000 to write them down for us. He's quite the joker.
Joker? I hardly knew her. Ha! Ha ha ha!
We, can't shut him down. Thanks for your question. If you'd like to have a shot at getting your question answered on the show, sign up to become a member of the China Uncensored 50-cent Army by supporting the show with $1 or more per episode through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Thanks for watching China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.